It's rare.
This is a powerful wind, enough to knock over a tree.
It's unique.
2 more steps.
It's Mother Nature at her strangest.
I pretty well had decided I wasn't going to survive.
These are the stories from people who work in extreme weather.
Oh, just lost a big window.
It was just like a bomb went off. And nobody is coming to save you.
And the storms they'll never forget.
Wham! Crack! Bang! Bang! Bang!
Holy we're going to die.
Plus, the how and why behind the world's worst weather.
Mother Nature is one mother.
Mother Nature can dish out some strange weather. These phenomena may be explained by science, but sometimes are so rare they cannot be explained at all. Volcanoes trigger some of the strangest weather on the planet, as was the case on a small remote island called Ambro.
Ambrim volcano is in Vanuatu in the southwest Pacific. And Ambrim is very special because it doesn't have a lake of water, it has a lake of lava. That lava lake is somewhere between 1,100 degrees Celsius and 1,200 degrees Celsius. You do not want to fall into that lake. You do not want to take a swim into that lake because you will dissolve. Think of the Earth as an egg, and the eggshell is the crust, the white of the egg is the mantle, and the yellow part is the core. The mantle is the part of the Earth underneath the crust, which is relatively thin, and magma, which eventually gets out onto the surface as lava, ultimately comes from the mantle, not from the core, but from the mantle. So why do some volcanoes erupt all the time, and why do some volcanoes erupt intermittently and go back to sleep and so forth? Has to do with the nature of the plumbing system. So a volcano that's erupting all the time must have a well-established plumbing system between the mantle and the surface, which is a pretty amazing thing, actually.
An active volcano emits gases, and when these gases collide with Mother Nature, the result is a strange weather phenomenon called acid rain. The results can be deadly, especially for the brave few who dare to venture inside the heart of the volcano.
My name is George Karunas. I'm a professional explorer and storm chaser. I've spent the past 20 years exploring the most extreme places on Earth, from the most ferocious weather to erupting volcanoes. I've been fascinated with volcanoes since I was a little kid. You can stand on a volcano and see the lava coming out of it and understand civilization as we know it could be wiped out because of a very large eruption.
Oh. Standing up to the edge, unbelievably hot. It just burns your face, burns your ears. With the protection on, I can stand there, but without it, I can feel the heat just from here, and it's unbelievably hot.
I have melted my boots on volcanoes. I have had to dodge pieces of lava flying through the air. I just can't get enough of them. In August 2014, I was part of an expedition that brought us to the island of Ambrim with the goal of not just going and visiting the volcano, but to descend 1,200 feet down inside. There's only 5 places in the world where these lakes of lava exist. And I thought for years that I would never get the opportunity to go there because it's too difficult, it's too dangerous, it's too expensive. But I was finally able to fulfill that dream.
But for George, a sudden change in weather would quickly turn that dream into a nightmare.
I thought I'd seen it all. I got a little more than I bargained for.
On a volcano, there are gases being emitted all the time. And when those gases interact with rainwater, the rainwater becomes acidic, extremely acidic, because the gases that are being emitted from the volcano are highly acid in nature.
All right, gentlemen, let's get suited up.
At the top of the volcano, George and his lava-chasing team prepare for a thrilling but highly dangerous adventure.
There's 100% uncertainty on every step of this expedition. At the summit of that volcano, there's very little chance of any kind of assistance or rescue. And there's a constant cloud of gas nearby. If there's any type of rain happening or even the chance of rain, we won't even bother trying to descend down, because once you begin that process, you're locked in.
To ascend quickly from craters and out of danger, climbers often carry a specialized piece of equipment.
Hook this one on.
The most important piece of equipment, a device called an act safe, which is a gasoline-powered rope ascender. Think of it as a lawnmower engine that you clip to your climbing harness. You can then thread your rope through it, pull it to start it. It has a throttle, and it will act like your own personal elevator to pull you up to get you out of the crater. Without it, you're in big trouble. The crater itself is 1,200 feet deep. That's deeper than the Empire State Building is tall. So imagine having to rappel down almost a straight cliff with a pool of boiling lava below you.
Looks good. Good. All right, let's do this into the furnace.
His backpack loaded with safety gear,
See you boys later.
George begins his descent into the jaws of the crater.
I had done a fair amount of rappelling inside volcanoes already, but this was my deepest rappel. So I was a little nervous. That first overhang is a bit intimidating because it's a straight drop, about 300 feet. You can smell the volcano, and every now and then, the wind will blow. You'll feel a little bit of the heat on your face, even though it's still several hundred meters away. And you look over your shoulder, and there's the glowing pit of lava right behind you. A little bit at a time, descend a little bit at a time. It takes several hours to rappel from base camp down to the bottom. It's like descending into the belly of the earth.
Exhausted after hours spent climbing down the crater, George finally makes it to the bottom.
Hey, George, y'all good?
Just reached the bottom, guys.
Copy that.
Talk to me if you need to.
There are few places on planet Earth that are more desolate, dangerous. It feels almost like setting foot on a new planet. And with that suit, feeling very much like an astronaut, you walk over to the edge of the lava. And it gets louder and louder, and it sounds like the devil's washing machine. The lake of lava is about 60 or 70 meters across. And from the point at the very edge where I'm standing, it's a 20-meter drop straight into liquid rock. 2 more steps, sploosh. And just look out on the waves, literal waves of liquid rock crashing against the side. It makes the sound like being at the beach, but deeper. You could probably count on one hand the number of people that have stood in that spot.
For 30 minutes, George explores the crater, unaware of ominous rain clouds rapidly forming around the volcano. Although George's team members were aware of the rain,
Hey, George.
they were unaware of its effect.
What's up, guys? We got some rain here at base. You might want to consider coming back.
When you're at the bottom of the crater, you can't see the horizon. So there's no way for you to know if there's bad weather coming.
It's getting pretty heavy, George. I'd recommend you come back.
All right, headed back up.
Copy that.
The rain had started. And it wasn't just a light drizzle, it was starting to really come down.
Rain that falls through volcanic gas clouds can be as corrosive as battery acid, causing serious damage to anything or anyone it touches.
This acid is so destructive that it will eat away at all kinds of materials. Within a matter of minutes, I could see the coating on my aluminum heat suit starting to slough off because of the acidity. Now I'm thinking, great, I have to ascend through this rain. And this is going to be nothing but awful for the next 2 hours, because there's no shortcut. If anything goes wrong at the bottom, you might as well be on the summit of Everest. You might as well be on another planet, because nobody is going to come to rescue you. I go to start my ascender, and the starting cable comes off in my hand. Here I am, 1,200 feet down, and my only means of egress has now split in two. And the string on the starter cord was damaged by the acid.
The starter cord on George's gasoline-powered ascender is his lifeline. Without the ascender, he has no hope of escaping the volcano as toxic rain pours down on him. But fortunately for George, before it broke, the cord did its job.
Guys, you copy?
Copy, George Base.
I got the motor started, but this thing just broke on me. If it stops, I'm done for. You're gonna have to be at the top watching for me, all right?
Copy that, we're on the way.
Luckily, it started on that first pull. Gave it some gas and started walking up as it pulled me.
There's no time to lose. George needs to get out now. And the only way out is straight up, outside and exposed to the acid rain.
It was awful. I was trying to ascend with a broken piece of equipment that, if it had stalled, would have trapped me and stranded me. And meanwhile, the acid rain was still coming down. And I can tell that it's very strong acid rain. Stronger than what we get at base camp, because at the bottom of the crater, there's even more gas above you. So the strength of this acid is unlike anything I've ever experienced.
If you were in the crater and it was raining and there was a lot of gas coming out of the volcano, the rain would be intensely acid. If you were taking pictures with a camera, you would probably fairly quickly notice that the camera would stop working because the camera would start getting corroded. Anything metallic will be ruined. A cell phone will be ruined by this intense acidity, just simply because the acidity is so strong, so elevated.
In addition to acid rain, volcanoes create strange weather in other ways. When lava flows into groundwater, it creates steam explosions, forcing small pebbles or large rocks to shoot into the air, called ballistic projectiles. We are familiar with volcanic ash carried by wind. However, if wind dies down while a volcano is active, gas and other pollutants can create a volcanic smog known as VOG. Drained from the heat and his descent into the volcano, George inches up the 1,200-foot deep crater. His only hope of escape? A motorized lifeline with a broken starter cord.
The last thing in the world I want is for this thing to stall with me on the rope. And I'm thinking, oh, please stop raining. Please don't stall.
As George slowly and steadily ascends the crater, acid rain eats away at his ropes.
Please don't stall. Please don't stall. Please don't stall.
In these brutal conditions, George knows his equipment won't hold out much longer.
There are few things more miserable than being cold, wet, and not just being soaked in water, but being soaked in acid. When the raindrops hit your face, it starts to burn your eyes and sting your skin, and you taste that acrid, metallic flavor in your mouth. It was painful. My eyes were stinging. And I wear contact lenses. So it makes things even more difficult for me. I'm worried about my rigid, gas-permeable contact lenses literally dissolving inside my eye sockets. So I'm trying to wipe my eyes when I can and trying to keep the machine from stalling.
Come on!
Finally, after 3 agonizing hours, George makes it to the upper rim of the volcano and safety.
By the time I got to the top, I was soaked to the bone. All my gear was busted, but it felt so good to get back to base camp, knowing that I was alive.
If I were going to visit a lava lake at an active volcano, the first thing I would do is make sure somebody knew where I was going. And in terms of acid rain, which I think is a very interesting problem in this case, knowing the weather patterns is very important as well. And so you would choose the time of the year, which is the driest to go. There still will be a chance of rain, but the probability will be lower.
Wow. This was a serious malfunction, bordering on catastrophic.
Believe that?
All it takes is a few things to compound together to create an absolute tragedy. There was a good chance that I could have to spend hours trapped in one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. This is a place that is not conducive to human life. I've actually done several expeditions again back to that exact crater. However, we take a few more precautions now.
I'm about 30 meters away from the lake of lava. I gotta put my heat suit on.
And I'll probably go back there again.
Strange weather, like acid rain, is created by the random mixture of a volcanic eruption colliding with a rainstorm. And just as bizarre is when winds combine with mountains, they accelerate out of control and literally rip trees out of the ground. When you think of Idaho, you don't usually think of strange weather, but being only 350 miles from the Pacific Ocean, its mountain ranges are positioned perfectly to trap severe weather systems, and sometimes bizarre events can occur. There's an expression that residents of Idaho are known to say: if you don't like the weather, just wait 15 minutes. However, 15 minutes can lead to strange and life-threatening weather. Benjamin Earwicker's love of the outdoors began when he was 7 and continues today. He's traveled to 37 different countries, and he's hiked through most of them.
I'm an avid backpacker and hiker ever since I grew up in the mountains of Central Oregon in the Pacific Northwest. I love being in the outdoors. I love being in the backcountry whenever possible. Well, wind is something that I think about whenever we pick a campsite. I try to find shelter so that we're protected from the wind, because in the middle of the night, if we're out in a flimsy ultralight tent, the wind can really change the dynamics. It can actually be quite dangerous if there are trees nearby. I think I'm educated by both experience and by taking the time to prepare myself to be in the backcountry and in these situations that are oftentimes unpredictable. I try to prepare myself so that I know what I'm up against so that I'm prepared in the event that something goes wrong.
Oh, it's recording.
Oh, hi.
So this is our sleeping quarters for the night.
So I've hiked and backpacked on 5 different continents in 30+ countries around the world, and I know how to handle myself in a range of situations and weather patterns, except this one time.
Go!
So in terms of the interaction of wind and complex terrain, what we can sometimes see happening is in areas of higher elevation, when the winds sort of line up near the surface and aloft from one direction, it's a very stable situation. Those winds can then sink suddenly as they come down through a steep valley or the lee side of a mountain. The winds can accelerate as they go down the slope, pick up speed as they go for at the base of the valley when those winds hit. Again, could be a very dangerous situation.
Scientists have long been perplexed as to why in cyclone winds, trees are not pulled out of the ground. Studies have confirmed that there is a magic breaking point. Literally, only after wind speeds of 90 miles per hour do trees break, no matter what their size or diameter.
In terms of trees falling down in the wind, yes, this is something that can happen. A lot depends on the type of tree. Shallow-rooted trees in wet soil can be much more susceptible to being knocked over by strong winds, whereas more deeply rooted trees in somewhat harder soil, it's going to take stronger winds to damage them.
Oh, man. I can't wait.
June 2012. It started as a fun adventure.
Yeah, I agree.
Benjamin planned a 32-mile hike in the mountains near Crooked River with his good friend.
I currently live in Boise, Idaho, which is about 2 hours south of the Crooked River area. Crooked River's in the central mountains of Idaho. Former mining town, a lot of beautiful mountains. So this was a trip that was just really close to home. Nothing exotic, nothing out of the ordinary. Just a nice, easy weekend backpacking trip. So we thought. When we looked at the weather forecast, it was projected to be sunny, maybe a little bit of precipitation, but nothing out of the ordinary. So we thought this was a great weekend to go up and do some biking, do a little hiking and camping.
Where are we going?
And we stashed our mountain bikes so that we could find them later and they'd be protected.
We're about right here.
Then our plan was to do a 13-mile loop back to the bikes.
Oh, okay, yeah, that shouldn't be too far then.
And then go on the rest of the loop on bike. So we dropped the bikes, we drove down, parked the car, and started out on our trip. Beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky.
Although there was not a cloud in the sky, this was Idaho, and in 15 minutes, the weather could totally change.
At that point, we had been hiking for about 4 or 5 hours, so we had made it up over the first ridge. We're not worried about anything. I can see the clouds starting to build in the distance, and we thought, well, we might get a rain shower later tonight, but it's far enough away that we weren't too worried at that point.
It'll get better by the time we keep walking.
We're enjoying kind of a meandering hike along the forested hills, the ponderosa pines. Just a beautiful day in central Idaho. So the area we were hiking in is filled with a lot of different fir trees and pine trees, but ponderosa pines are one of the striking features of this part of the country. Ponderosa pines are a very large, sturdy pine. They can often be 60 to 80 feet tall.
You know about those bugs that eat the trees, some sort of insect.
Oh, really?
And all of a sudden, I heard a huge ponderosa pine fall down.
What was that?
Fortunately for us, the tree fell in the opposite direction, toward the hill on the opposite bank. But had it faced us, it would have easily spanned the Crooked River at that point. And all of a sudden, the wind starts to pick up. And pine needles start to blow at us down this canyon. And debris is being kicked up by this wind, and it increasingly grows within about a 5 to 10 minute period. Those clouds that we had seen in the distance were becoming more and more ominous, billowing up, much larger than before, and getting closer.
True to Idaho's weather patterns, within 10 minutes, unexpected wind has entered the downslope of the valley. The winds haven't just shown up, they have sped up.
Within about 30 seconds of the first tree falling, we heard a second and then a third tree fall around us.
Go, go.
The hair stood up on the back of my neck. I was prepared for just about any other weather condition, rain, snow, thunder shower. But when the wind started picking up and throwing debris at us, I thought something's different this time.
The backpackers decide to seek immediate shelter.
What's going through my mind is the thought that this is a powerful wind enough to knock over a tree. What happens if another tree falls directly on us? I could barely keep my eyes open because of all the dust and debris that at this point was swirling around us. So it wasn't just gusts of wind blowing debris every couple of seconds. This was a circular, powerful wind that was pushing us forward on the trail. And we knew in that instant that we had to find shelter, and we had to find shelter fast.
With trees crashing all around, finding shelter fast was not going to be easy.
We thought, where do we need to go to be protected from the trees? So we thought the only place that we can see is the creek bed itself.
Well, you don't see wind, but the dangerous thing about these strong wind events is what you're seeing is what the wind has picked up. Bits of trees. You're not seeing the wind, but you're seeing physically what that wind may have picked up, and it's really that flying debris that causes the concerns for injuries and death.
So we get down next to this ledge, down by the river, and as we're doing that, we're hearing trees still falling into the river. And we're finally feeling like, okay, we made the right decision. We've got out of harm's way. The trees are still falling, but at least if they fall on us, we're protected. And then I start to hear kind of a rustling in the shale and in the rocks. And there's a coiled up rattlesnake hidden in the rocks about arm's length from me at that point. Coiled up, potentially ready to strike. At this point, the car is probably 8 to 9 miles away. Our bikes are at least 6 miles away. So we had no easy solution to get out of there. And at this point, we knew that we couldn't go back where we came from because our path had been blocked by the falling trees. Our best bet at this point was to find a large boulder or a rock face that we could then shelter next to. The wind is still howling, the trees are still falling down. So we find a rock outcropping in the distance. And right as we're heading towards this rock, we look up, and in the same spot that we're headed is a small brown bear. We could hear the bear and perhaps another bear calling to one another, making noises to signal their location. So the sound I heard was kind of like a low growl, kind of like a ruh, ruh. But in that moment, we didn't have a choice because we couldn't stay there. The wind is howling, the trees are falling, and we have to get shelter under this rock.
What we find is animals in some cases have that sixth sense, the realization that there's a forest fire nearby and they're evacuating that area, the realization that there could be a storm brewing, perhaps a change in atmospheric pressure is causing those animals to move to another area. So there does seem to be some innate ability within Mother Nature to recognize the advance of a storm.
So at this point, we make a run for it. And we take off sprinting down this path, and we make it past where we heard the low growling sound from the bushes to a granite slab.
Hey, over here. I think we're good here.
And we decided that at that point we needed to find shelter there and perhaps stay there the night. We were under the granite slab for at least 9 hours.
Oh, jeez.
I had thoughts of whether or not we would even make it out of this situation. The danger to us physically was very real. It was very tangible, palpable. I felt that one or both of us could be injured or killed by these falling trees. This was a pretty restless night for me. The storm continued to brew over time. I would say the wind died down after probably 2 to 3 hours, but then we would have gusts of wind all night long. Most of that time, I was just listening and waiting and hoping that a tree wouldn't fall. So the next morning when we were able to hike out, we stopped counting fallen trees that had fallen across the path after 40 or 45 trees. What I've learned from this experience is that no matter how well prepared you are, you have to expect the unexpected. You have to be prepared for what you can't possibly imagine. This is the wilderness. Weather is unpredictable. We can't control what's going to happen no matter what the weather forecast says. So now when I backpack, when I'm out in the wilderness, I'm thinking about what are the weather conditions, what is the wind going to do, and how will that impact my choices. So the interesting thing about wind, you can't touch it, you can't see it. It's kind of one of those ethereal things that happens when you're out in nature. We don't think about wind. It's one of those things that happens to you or that you can't really see. You see its impact.
Go, go.
And that was the weather event that I will never forget.
Rain mixed with gases can be deadly. Wind mixed with nature can be catastrophic. Mix rain and wind together, and add a rare phenomenon that only Mother Nature can explain, and you have a recipe for disaster. Nebraska is a common state for tornadoes in the United States, sitting right in the middle of Tornado Alley, with an average of over 60 tornadoes a year, 19 in the month of June alone. Between June 16th and 18th, 2014, this area was hit by 76 tornadoes, and once 2 tornadoes at the same time. A rare phenomenon called twin tornadoes hit the small town of Pilgar, Nebraska. Population 350. Gene Willers was the president of the local bank. He has lived his entire life in this state and has witnessed tornadoes since he was a young boy.
My name is Gene Willers. I'm a retired bank president. I've been in banking most of my life. In a village such as Pilgar, we don't have a lot of turnover. Our location is a small location. We have 7 employees. I think of my staff as family. Pretty close relationship. You care about each other. It's an important part of it. I guess I'm here talking about weather, not as an expert, but as someone that's lived through it. Growing up on a farm in Nebraska, we watch the weather. It's just part of our makeup. And so we take storm warnings very seriously. We always are aware of our surroundings as far as our weather and where we can take shelter, those type of things. I was thinking the other day, how many tornado warnings have I been through? Somewhere around 30. I'm not a stranger to tornadoes, no. But this is one I'll never forget.
Gene may not have been a stranger to tornadoes, but this day was going to bring a rare phenomenon: twin tornadoes.
A twin tornado are 2 tornadoes, separate tornadoes, but they originate from one supercell thunderstorm.
Normally, one tornado is formed from one supercell. Scientists know how tornadoes are formed. However, they still don't know why some thunderstorms produce tornadoes and why others do not.
A twin tornado is very rare. On average, studies have shown that maybe you will see every 10 to 15 years one supercell thunderstorm produce two separate tornadoes. But we don't have a lot of data on twin tornadoes to begin with. For all we know, they're probably even more rare, upwards of 30, maybe even 40 years.
June 16, 2014. It was like any other working day for Jean. With one last appointment to attend in a neighboring town, Jean was looking forward to a game of golf after work. Little did Jean know that this typical day was just the calm before the storm. ×2.
I made a tee time at the Stanton Golf Course, which is about 10 miles to the west. When I saw the weather in the morning on television, it indicated that we were in a moderate risk area. After I left the meeting mid-afternoon, I could see that things were developing, that we were probably going to have some thunderstorms. And so I called and canceled the tee time.
No, golf's not gonna happen today.
Instead of going home, I decided just to drop by the bank and tidy up a few things and then go home. There was possibilities of some sightings. It was concerning. As I came closer to Pilgar, it was getting worse. It was muggy. Clouds were spinning quite a bit, and that's a little bit unusual. You just don't see that very often. That was a sign of things to come.
A distracted Jean leaves his cell phone in his car and heads into the bank. Jean arrives back at the bank shortly before closing.
Afternoon.
Was going to pop in for 15 minutes and then go. There were a couple matters that I wanted to take care of and talk to employees about. Most of the weather stations in Nebraska offer storm alerts that will come on your cell phone. About that time, the employees, at least 3 or 4, had alerts, and you could just hear them going off like all over the place. And I think one employee actually had a National Weather Service alert on theirs. You know, I was in my office, I heard these warnings going off, and they were almost all simultaneous, you know, so I looked out the window, you know, and saw that it had gotten worse. It was getting darker. One of the employees took a call, and it was from a storm spotter. They had spotted a tornado southwest of Pilgar heading our way.
Okay. No, you have to stay here. Everyone, gather around.
It was too late for the employees to leave.
We don't have time to go home.
And our emergency plan calls for using the vault as the storm shelter.
I got my grandkids.
I knew that was going to be the safest place for them to be.
The safest place is in the vault. We've got to get in there now.
One of the people in the bank that day was a repairman for our bank vault company. I asked him if the door could be locked from the inside, and he indicated to me, no, it can't be locked from the inside.
Realizing someone had to stay outside the vault to lock the door, Bank President Gene Willers takes charge and delegates the staff, possibly for the last time.
And I just said, get in the vault. And they could see the look on my face. They were not going to question it. So they went in the vault.
You'll be safe. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Everyone, stay there. Stay safe.
2 employees from the accounting office, the vault repairman, and then the employees that were there. I'm usually a fairly laid-back guy, but you get to the point you feel kind of like the, I don't want to say captain of the ship, but you know, for lack of a better term, somebody has to take responsibility to see that everyone's safe. I'm a family man. I've always felt that way about my family, and they were my family too.
And as captain of the ship, Gene made the heroic move to save his staff and possibly go down with his ship.
There's a wheel that you turn, but there's also, you spin the tumblers to lock it. And I didn't do that. I latched it and turned the wheel so it was tight. I was afraid if something happened to me that it would be difficult for somebody to open that door.
We're gonna die in here!
After I had latched the door, I went back to the windows, and at that point I could see 2 tornadoes southwest of town, probably 2 to 3 minutes away. I didn't stay there very long.
Gene made a quick decision based on his experience of tornadoes in the past.
I decided to go down the steps into the crawl space.
You're not dealing with just one funnel cloud. Now you're dealing with 2 separate tornadoes, and you cannot predict where a tornado is going. Maybe they're wrapping around each other. Maybe they're going in separate directions from each other. You may have to deal with the first tornado that comes and impacts your area. You may not even know that a second one is directly behind it.
Gene goes into survival mode.
So I went into the crawl space underneath the bank. At about that time, the electricity got cut. I could hear the siren going, but other than that, it was just eerily silent. I'm a man of faith, so I prayed. At this point, when I realized we're going to get a direct hit, I pretty well had decided I wasn't going to survive. My thoughts were, I hope I made the right decision with the ball. My wife, how's she gonna do without me? The children, grandchildren, those type of things. I didn't have my phone, so I couldn't communicate with her. In essence, I was alone, very alone. I started just hearing kind of rumbling. The air pressure was changing, so I knew it was coming.
With speeds up to 200 miles per hour, this was going to be bad.
At that point, when I started feeling, ears popping, those type of things, I knew we were gonna get hit. It was like 2 freight trains hitting head on. That's how loud it was. It was very loud at that point. The floor above me was being sucked up somewhat, just bouncing, and so I knew we were getting a direct hit. It probably wasn't that long of a time, but it seemed like forever.
It took only 81 seconds for the twin tornadoes to take down the bank and the town of Pilgar.
Longest 81 seconds that ever happened, I think, in my mind. There was debris on the steps. I had to clear that out to get up the steps. And I didn't realize the extent of the damage till I got up the steps.
It appears Gene is the only one that survived.
Because that floor had been pulled up somewhat, there were a lot of things laying around, desks, chairs, debris everywhere. And it looked like World War III outside of the bank.
Half the bank was now gone. But what about Gene's staff? Were they gone as well?
I had no idea what kind of condition the people were, and I couldn't hear them. And as I pulled the door open, they were all more or less huddled together in the back of the vault.
Is everyone okay? Come on, come on.
They came out, did a little hugging. Everybody it was just a flood of relief.
It's insane. It is crazy.
The only part of the bank that remained was the vault was supporting the north half of the ceiling, but that was about it. I mean, it was totally destroyed.
What remained of the bank's structure was deemed unsalvageable. Machines were brought in to tear it down completely.
We did have 2 deaths from the storm. That was tragic. You always, in the back of your mind, you wonder how you react in situations, you know. And I think I reacted well and responsibly. And I think the community, and especially my employees, feel good about what I did. And I thank God for his protection. I guess this storm had quite an impact on my life. I was 1 year from retirement, and I needed to stay on longer, so I spent another extra year and a half working to replace the bank. Also, the community was about 75% destroyed. The storm itself has changed the whole makeup of the community. Typical small rural community made up of a lot of older people, rental houses. Those people all left. So the population is probably 40% lower than it was. The downtown area was totally wiped out. I was recognized by the Red Cross, and every year Iowa and Nebraska has a rivalry football game. It's called the Heroes Game. And I was recognized there along with an individual from Iowa, and which I was appreciative. People really need to take these situations seriously. It's an awful thing. It's something that you can't describe. It's something to be avoided at all costs. I think the reason that this receives so much coverage is because 2 tornadoes of that magnitude side by side is really rare. That was the day weather changed my life.